RINOs to vote out in 2022.
Mr. Reagan.
What is a RINO? A RINO is a Republican in name only. They are the worst kind of Washington, D.C. filth. They're the scum at the bottom of the D.C. swamp. They're corrupt, self-interested politicians that deceptively call themselves Republicans. But they're not Republicans. They're not Republicans at all. They don't stand for any conservative values. They're either secretly Democrats or they're just greedy. They're out for money or power. They're sellouts. They have no principles. They are pond scum. In 2020, Congress frivolously and divisively impeached Donald Trump for the second time. This was, of course, a partisan political tactic. Democrats know they can't win elections fairly, and so they resort to tactics like this. And so you might think that it's inconceivable that any Republican would ever go along with the Democrat plan to smear Trump with a false charge of insurrection, and yet some did. Now, there are some obvious RINOs like Adam Kinzinger, the most detested Republican perhaps ever in history, the most traitorous scum I've ever witnessed among Republican politicians. And I would love to tell the good people of Illinois to vote this scumbag out of office, but unfortunately, Kinzinger saw this coming. Of course, he was going to lose a re-election bid, and so he's, quote, retiring from public office.
I also remember during that campaign saying that if I ever thought it was time to move on from Congress, I would. And that time is now. I want to make it clear. This isn't the end of my political future, but the beginning.
Beep. Oh my God, what's going on? Beep, 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 beep. My bullcrap meter's going crazy. Beep, 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 beep.
I stand in awe at the courage of the other 9 members in the House who voted to impeach a president of their own party.
Ha! Gay!
And so sadly, we cannot watch him lose in a landslide. And perhaps not surprisingly, there are several other Republicans who voted for the Trump impeachment who have denied us the satisfaction of kicking them out of office. Fred Upton of Michigan, Anthony Gonzalez of Ohio, and John Katko of New York have all declined to run for re-election. But perhaps the most frustrating of all, Mitt Romney, isn't up for re-election until 2024. However, there are several other RINOs that we can usher out of office, and I'm going to go through the worst of them in one moment. First, I have to sell you something. For years now, people have been setting up a little contest between crypto and gold, but that's like comparing trucks with SUVs. Both carry stuff and both travel from A to B, but they do different jobs. Gold's job is to keep the value of your money safe and to preserve its value. And since Ukraine and the oil and inflation crises, gold has done a brilliant job compared to stocks and other investments. So if you're worried about what's going on right now, and who isn't, just talk to the experts at Noble Gold about precious metals IRAs for your retirement. They'll put you straight on your options and they'll hold your hand through the entire setup process. And this month, for any qualified IRA, you'll get an incredible 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin completely free as a thank you. You know, when they sent me this, they send me coins every once in a while. Valeria flipped out. So far, this is her favorite coin, and I have to say, I agree. This thing is pretty nice. So call 877-646-5347 right now to find out more, or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Number 1, Liz Cheney, Wyoming. Yeah, the number 1 RINO is, of course, Liz Cheney. This is Dick Cheney's daughter, and Donald Trump and Dick hate each other. Trump was highly critical of the George W. Bush administration and Dick Cheney specifically. He considers those guys deep state. And once he said about Dick, he's very, very angry and nasty. I didn't like Cheney when he was vice president. I don't like him now. I don't like people that rat out everybody like he's doing in the book. I'm sure it'll be a bestseller, but isn't it a shame? Here's a guy that did a rotten job as vice president, nobody liked him, tremendous divisiveness, and he's gonna make a lot of money on the book. I won't be reading it. And so yeah, Dick Cheney hates Donald Trump, and so Liz Cheney hates Donald Trump. It's a petty family feud that Liz didn't actually need to get involved in, but I don't know, she's a woman, I guess she's emotional. I mean, I appreciate the impulse to defend her father, but Trump was a great president. Turning against him for personal reasons is just stupid. And not only that, by turning against Trump, Liz Cheney has, in many ways, turned against the Republican Party. Liz Cheney was chosen by Nancy Pelosi as one of only 2 Republicans to be on the January 6th commission. The other one, of course, being Adam Kinzinger. Pelosi chose these 2 specifically because she knew that she could trust them. These are not people who are loyal to Republicans. I don't think Liz Cheney has much of a chance in her re-election effort, but she's such a despicable traitor that she needed to be on this list. list, and she needed to be number 1. So currently, Liz Cheney is up against a woman named Harriet Hageman.
The fact is that carbon is not the horrible constituent that so many people want to make it out to be. It's plant food. We are not in a situation where we have too much carbon. We've got this idea of global warming and climate change, and what it's really doing is it's making America very, very weak, and it's making our enemies very, very strong, because they're not willing to destroy their economies in their countries for pursuing this radical green environmental agenda. All of this really is monetary policy. This is an affirmative policy by this administration to kowtow to the radical environmentalists, and what's really going to happen is the poorest among us are going to become poorer, and the middle class is going to be hit the hardest. Yet we have an administration that has truly gone to war with the average person in this country. They want your food prices to go up. They want your energy prices to go up. They want those kinds of things. We can talk about what they're doing with our education establishment, and there are so many areas that they're touching, and the reality is that every single thing that they've touched so far has been a disaster. And this is just one of the many areas. And eventually you have to come to the conclusion that this isn't by accident. They're trying to fundamentally transform the United States of America, and we're not going to let them. We're going to stop them.
Hageman dresses like some kind of feminist artist. She's got the haircut of a lesbian from 1994. And this might make some people pause, like, wait, should I vote for her? But I heard what she said at CPAC, and I loved it. So despite her appearance, she is apparently a true conservative. So I guess this is a don't judge a book by its cover kind of situation. In any case, Hageman is just killing Cheney in the polls, which is fantastic. I hope she turns out to be a great congressman. So if you live in Wyoming, you need to vote for Harriet Hageman and vote out Liz Cheney. Number 2, Lisa Murkowski, Alaska. Now, I am excited about this one, and not because I'm thrilled at the prospect of getting rid of Lisa Murkowski. I am, but that's true of everyone on this list. No, I'm excited because of who I think is going to replace her. But I'll get to that in a moment. First, I want to say that Murkowski is not the worst rhino, but she is a rhino. She and Mitt Romney recently voted to confirm Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. How any senator could vote to confirm a nominee who was chosen because of their race and gender is beyond my understanding. To me, that is traitorous. You're not voting for the best. You're not voting for excellence. You're voting for a show pony, for a diversity hire. And you voted for that for the Supreme Court. There is no justification for that. And to add insult to injury, she voted against Brett Kavanaugh. But it gets worse. Murkowski seems to always break with Republicans and vote to confirm detestable Biden nominees. And according to her chief primary challenger, Lisa Murkowski got her job because her dad, who was governor of Alaska, gave it to her. Not cool. Of course, the most detestable thing about Murkowski is that she voted to impeach Donald Trump. And this is, of course, disqualifying. Any Republican who voted to falsely impeach Trump is either a moron or totally corrupt. We cannot have anyone representing the American people, either in the House or the Senate, with either of those qualities. But as I said, there is hope. And that hope goes by the name Kelly Chewbacca, the most beautiful Wookiee in the galaxy. I'm sure she's never heard that one before. Jokes aside, Kelly Chewbacca is phenomenal.
Senator Lisa Murkowski. She cast the tie-breaking vote to confirm the radical environmentalist Deb Haaland to be Joe Biden's Interior Secretary. And with that single vote, Murkowski killed thousands of oil and gas jobs. Murkowski, she doesn't feel it when she votes to confirm Joe Biden's radical nominees like she's done over 90% of the time. She even voted for the Green New Deal, you know, the infrastructure bill. But Murkowski didn't just vote for it, she helped write it. It is time to hold these leftist supporting insiders accountable. And aren't we all excited that come this November, we are going to block Biden's business busting, border bungling, crime cascading, defense decimating, energy annihilating, gun grabbing, gender jumbling, liberty loathing, mandate militating, parent punishing, police persecuting, socialist supporting, America obliterating agenda.
According to Breitbart, Lisa Chewbacca is crushing Lisa Murkowski in the polls, and I could not be happier. So if you live in Alaska, make sure you're voting for this woman. Let us kick the deep state rhino Lisa Murkowski out of Washington. Number 3, Peter Meyer, Michigan. Now this guy pisses me off. Peter Meyer is a straight up Democrat. I watched a bunch of videos of this guy, and he is a total phony. I don't know who this guy's taking orders from, but he is a Democrat puppet. It's probably Nancy Pelosi. I don't know. His family is one of the richest in Michigan, worth over $6 billion. This guy is your quintessential rich, out-of-touch establishment stooge. Somebody's probably got dirt on him, or maybe he's got aspirations to be president, something like that. I don't know. He went to Columbia University and then New York University, two of the most radically left universities in the country. He then went on to work for NGOs and assisted in an urban renewal project. This guy's resume is just screaming spoiled rich progressive kid. Now, I don't know how he tricked the good Republicans of Michigan into voting for him. Apparently got a bunch of other rich Michigan business owners and family friends to donate to his campaign and essentially bought the election. Again, this guy is no Republican. But don't take my word for it. Watch for yourself.
The fact of the matter is, January 6th and the assault on the Capitol would have never happened if it wasn't for President Trump propagating two lies. One, that November 3rd was a landslide victory for Donald Trump that was stolen. And two, that January 6th was the day to stop the steal. And those two lies were continually amplified, legitimized, and propagated by Donald Trump, and it resulted in the deaths of 5 Americans.
This guy is corrupt scum, but there is hope. There is another man who can represent West Michigan. His name, John Gibbs. John Gibbs is a soft-spoken guy, not the most aggressive personality, but what an impressive man. He's a Christian missionary, he's fluent in Japanese, he's a software engineer who helped design the freaking iPhone. He worked with the Trump administration as an assistant secretary for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I mean, this guy is just an impressive dude.
There is a huge energy among the base. It's like it's boiling under the surface. People are really sick of everything that's been happening, like the lockdowns. Their kids can't go to school. Even when their kids go to school, they force them to wear a mask, even though the parents don't want to get them to wear a mask. We have this critical race theory stuff. The government is calling you a domestic terrorist if you show up to your school board meeting. Gas prices are high, empty shelves, etc. So people are sick of this stuff, and the energy level is increasing. All that stuff runs counter to what the establishment and the GOP typically has stood for and the way they've typically operated. We're supposed to be a representative democracy, but if the people in our party are not being represented by the leadership of our party, which is kind of where we've been at and the situation we have, then that's a little bit of a problem. So hopefully we'll be seeing a realignment over the coming years where we can get more actual representation.
He also once tweeted that Hillary's campaign chairman, John Podesta, is a Satan worshiper, and he called establishment conservatives cucks, and he stated that the Democrat Party was the party of Islam, gender bending, anti-police, and the expression, "you're racist." I mean, this guy just keeps on getting better and better. So if you live in West Michigan, vote for John Gibbs and get rid of that rich prick, the rhino, Peter Meyer. Get him out of there. Number 4, Jamie Herrera Butler, Washington State. Now, this chick has always hated Donald Trump. She's been a never-Trumper from 2016 onward. She even admitted in a town hall that she didn't even vote for Trump in the 2016 election.
I chose not just to endorse him, but not to vote for him.
I mean, what kind of Republican doesn't vote for the Republican nominee for president? This chick annoys the heck out of me. She's anti-Trump. Okay, fine. But you know what? She's also an idiot. I watched this interview that she did with KGW, which is our NBC local news station up in Oregon, and she talked to this guy about how she thinks that Republicans believe all these conspiracy theories and how it's super dangerous that we believe all this stuff. And then she goes and she very confidently reiterates the lie about Officer Brian Sicknick being beaten to death by protesters. Listen to this.
You know, the Oregon Republican Party put out a statement supporting the belief that there is growing evidence of a false flag, which is nonsense. How dangerous do you think it is when you have people who are currently in leadership who aren't looking at things through the lens of reality?
It's devastatingly dangerous. What more proof do we need than the fact that a United States Capitol police officer lied and he was laid in state in the rotunda that his body did so that people could pay honor to him. He literally was bludgeoned to death by people claiming God, claiming they were doing the right thing, that this was 1776. How much more proof do we need that it is deadly dangerous to fan the flames of conspiracy and half-truth?
Even when that came out in the news, the lie about Brian Sicknick, it was very obviously leftist propaganda. We all knew it was a lie as soon as they reported it. It was clear as day, and she's out there repeating this with confidence. I mean, she criticizes Trump supporters and Republican voters for being crazy conspiracy theorists, and then she confidently states a crazy conspiracy theory. The lack of self-awareness is astonishing. I mean, this is pretty typical for a Democrat, but this is unusually stupid for a Republican. But she's not really a Republican, is she? She's a RINO. Republican in name only, and she's a traitor to her constituents and to every true conservative out there. The good news is she's about to get beaten by Joe Kent. If Bruce Wayne was real, this is what he'd look like. And that's not just a joke. Joe Kent was a Green Beret. The man is a true patriot. This guy has fought hard for this country. He's the kind of man that American children can look up to.
This is a major discrepancy that America First Republicans have with your typical corporate GOP. She says the free markets because she doesn't want to fight for working class American jobs. She wants unlimited, unchecked immigration that undercuts working class jobs. She wants foreign labor to be brought in to serve the corporate donor class. I want to restrict that. I want to be able to put American jobs first. This whole religion of the free market that the Republican Party seems to have, and many on the Democratic side too, it has done nothing but ship our jobs overseas to China. Here in the Northwest, it killed off the vast majority of our timber industry. It killed off our sawmills. This globalist mindset has had absolutely catastrophic effects that we're seeing come to fruition right now with Joe Biden's failed economic policies. We have stagflation right now in our country for the first time since the 1970s. So this altar of the free market that she wants to bow down to just to cater to the corporate donor class is a failed policy. And this is really what it's all about. Trump was an assault on the corporate ruling class, and that's why they wanted to get rid of him. That's why Trump was so overwhelmingly popular within the Republican Party, and that's why we're making gains throughout the country with the working class. So I continue to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That oath for me does not expire, and I will never stop fighting for the working men and women of this country.
Joe Kent, we have to end it there. Thank you for joining me on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, this guy's from my neck of the woods, so I'm a little bit biased, but I just love this guy. I think that he's going to make a great congressman, and he is going to be a congressman. This race is not even close. Kent is killing Butler in the polls, and it makes sense. He's a Green Beret. He's trained to kill. A little bit of humor there for the kids. Kent is polling at 30.6%, 7 points ahead of the Democrat candidate, Brent Heinrich, and then way back in third is Jamie Herrera Butler with a pathetic 23.4% of the vote. So sad. Now, I'm not too worried about this one, but if you live in Vancouver, Washington, if you're one of my fellow Pacific Northwesterners, let's get rid of the despicable RINO, Jamie Herrera Butler, and be sure to vote for American hero, Joe Kent. Number 5, Dan Newhouse, Washington State. It saddens me to see 2 Republicans from the Pacific Northwest betraying the American people by voting for the corrupt impeachment of Donald Trump. But this one is particularly painful because this part of Washington State, this is the home of my ancestors. My dad's family lived many years in Yakima, Washington. This is where my grandparents grew up and met and got married. I still have a lot of distant relatives in that area. And look, okay, obviously nobody knew that this Dan Newhouse guy was going to be such a traitor, and yet this is where we find ourselves. Well, it's not too late to fix the problem. We just have to vote out Dan Newhouse. Dan Newhouse has flown under the radar completely, as far as I can tell. I never heard about this guy until he voted to impeach Trump. From what I can tell, his father was a career politician, and it looks like he got his current job, at least partly, through nepotism. Honestly, the fact that this guy is from the same place that my family is from makes me detest him even more. I really hope the people of Yakima and the Tri-Cities area get rid of this guy. Now, there are several great candidates running against Newhouse this year, and no one prominent has really chosen a candidate to get behind. I can understand why very few people have gotten behind any of these candidates. I mean, I had to watch a lot of videos to figure out who I liked best here. Really, because there are just some phenomenal candidates. Now, let's go through a few of the candidates here because, you know, like I said, these guys are all good. Brad Kippert. He seems like a real decent guy. He's a state representative, so there's a lot of videos of him being a state representative. Anyway, here's a clip.
I'm State Representative Brad Kippert. My political heroes are the Founding Fathers. I absolutely love the story of the Revolutionary War. We were subservient to England. Our founding fathers said, that's not going to work for us. We didn't come here to serve England. And so they fought for and won our independence. So that's why I love our founding fathers. I love our Constitution and everything they did to make it happen. When I'm not here working in the legislature, I'm home working as a law enforcement officer. Got over 25 years of law enforcement experience. I see some of the horrific things that people suffer at the hands of others. I see the consequences of people being involved in illicit drugs that either are illegal now or have been legal in the past, that just ruin lives and families and are not good for our society. So things like that are a passion of mine, to protect our public against those things that I think everybody recognizes as dangers, and some things that aren't recognized as dangers that I know by firsthand are dangerous for the citizens of our state.
Jared Sessler. This guy is super passionate about politics. He's a Christian, and by everything I've seen, he's a true conservative. And he made this bizarre campaign ad.
Divisions between people based on race are growing instead of shrinking. The equality that was once blocked by a glass ceiling that our mothers and grandmothers fought for is being stripped away as our daughters are replaced by biological men. While drug dealers and human smugglers breach our borders en masse, the Second Amendment, written to protect us from our government, is now called promoting gun violence. The family unit is being dismantled, and the words father and mother, husband and wife, brother and sister are being erased from our vocabulary. Even our little children are not immune from this corrupting culture, as our kindergartners are being taught that their gender is now a choice. The anti-American leftists will continue their canceling ways, making up lies as they go.
Lauren Kulp. This guy is a police chief and an incredibly sharp guy. He ran for governor against Jay Inslee, and his debate was really impressive. And Ted Nugent has actually endorsed him, so that's pretty cool. If the residents of this district were to vote this guy into Congress, I think they'd be making a great choice. Lauren Kulp doesn't have a great campaign ad, so I'm going to play a little bit of a stream that he recently recorded.
Mr. Newhouse, despite him saying that he is a supporter of the Second Amendment, just voted in favor of a red flag gun confiscation law for the members of our military. As you may know, red flag laws are the Democrats' way of taking guns without due process. The person whose guns are being confiscated isn't even in the courtroom when this happens. Dan Newhouse voted in favor of that happening. We need a representative in Congress that will stand up against these unconstitutional gun grabs by the left and not pass that responsibility on to someone else in hopes that they will stand up. That is not abiding by your oath of office to uphold and defend. And I will abide by my oath of office to protect your Second Amendment's rights and all of your rights, period. Just like I did back in 2018 as the small town police chief. It really pisses me off. We are going to take this country back.
That guy is great. All right, now there are, of course, many other RINOs that we need to expel from Washington, D.C., but these are 5 that are up for re-election this year and who happen to be some of the worst. Now, if I missed someone that you think that I should highlight, please let me know in the comment section below, and maybe I'll make another one of these videos. This is going to be a great year for the country. I know there's a lot of pessimists out there who, after 2020, lost all faith in our election system, and I totally understand that. You have good reason to be cynical. If I'm honest, I was made a little cynical too last November. But I have hope. I have a lot of hope. I don't think that they can doctor the vote enough to overcome the tidal wave that's going to hit them in November. I really do think that we're taking both the House and the Senate this year, and I'm excited. Well, that's it for me, and remember, it's not that our RINO friends are ignorant. It's just that they are despicable traitors. Good night.
You know, someone very profoundly once said that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism. And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, but total government control and regulation. Well, isn't this the liberal philosophy? The conservative, so-called, is the one that says, less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.